you never know what's going to work. Because I'd been just thinking about how can you convey the idea of law firm financial success to people in a way that they will understand it right away. So I said, well, let's try a report card. And suddenly dozens, hundreds of people were asking for that. That just really connected in a way that a whole bunch of other things didn't. And that's just the way it works as far as I can tell. There's no formula for success for the most part, and things you think are going to really take off don't at all. And then something that was kind of a flyer turns out to be the big winner. All right. Nice to meet you too, Chris. And really, thanks for the opportunity to be here. So I've been a practicing lawyer for 35 years. I recently retired. And early on in my career, I had a lot of pain in the law firms that I worked in. I actually had two of them implode while I was in them, including one that left me without a job on a Saturday afternoon and with a 6-month-old baby to feed. So I became very passionate about the business of law and how to make law firms more financially successful and better businesses. And after that bad experience, I was lucky to land in a really well-run law firm, and I learned some of the secrets of what makes it a great firm, and I want to share those things. I also want to help law firms to operate more efficiently through the software that they use, and that's how the idea for LeanLaw came from. We are a law firm financial operating system, we call it. More simplified, a billing system with a lot of bells and whistles attached to it that simplify one of the key workflows of a law firm, which is the invoice and collections.
I know you didn't start off with 700 clients and
Yeah.
$1 billion in transaction volume. Maybe walk us through the early days, how you found your first customers, and maybe what worked and what didn't work in the early days.
None of us in our founding team had done this before, so we were all learning as we went. It took us over a year before we had a product that we could sell to anybody. We were selling a few services before that. So one of my partners has an IT background and was selling IT services to law firms. So we developed some relationships that way. Some of those people became customers. And then other people were just people I knew from being a lawyer for a long time, and people we reached through sending emails. We tried cold calling. And I even, that worked so poorly that I even had somebody I knew hang up on me during a cold call. Lawyers put big moats around themselves, so reaching them is a challenge. But, ultimately we started to build that. We started to do webinars on how to run a lean law firm. We could get a lot of people out for those, and some of those people took a look at our software. We did a lot of outbound emails and tried a little paid digital. We didn't have a lot of money in those days, so couldn't go too far into that. And, slowly, we built up a client base.
Very cool. So tap into your network, your immediate network, first and foremost. You got hung up on by someone you personally knew, which is a pretty funny, pretty funny anecdote. I've had that happen to me too. So emails, it seemed like it worked. Was the avenue to drive traffic to your webinar going outbound via emails to get people to sign up, or were there other channels that worked well for you there too?
I would say that was the most successful one we had at the time, and just emails, asking people to try out the software. And as I say, we didn't have a professional marketer on the team when we started. We hired someone about 6 months later who started doing, more SEO type of tactics and a little bit of paid digital where we had some money. And that was the first time we learned how poorly paid digital works in our space. That we weren't able to do that for very long. Almost the whole time, email has been the best way for us to reach people. And that's very specific to our niche. Law firms use a lot of email. They're probably not on social networks with the exception of LinkedIn nearly as much. And not paying a lot of attention to digital ads.
Yeah, law firm partners are probably not checking up on what their middle school friends are up to on Facebook and Instagram. Maybe they're on LinkedIn. Those ads you really need to refine those and optimize them for them to work, given the cost per click is immense.
Yeah, we've used other tactics in LinkedIn. I mean, promoting posts has been very effective there. Getting lots of contacts and getting a lot of followers with good content. That's been really successful on LinkedIn. Yeah, not so much on Facebook. And Google ads are really tough in our world. So
Yeah. Well, you're targeting professional skeptics, right? The most discerning
yeah,
as they
exactly.
get, right? That's literally their livelihoods is being discerning skeptics and charging for it. Are there any elements that you think contribute to, let's say, webinars? Because that seems like a really big lever for you to unlock new clients or customers. Anything that contributes to a really great webinar series that you've noticed works for you? But first, this episode is brought to you by Convert.ai. Convert.ai helps B2B SaaS and services hit their growth records. For the past decade, they've helped companies from YC, A16Z, seed, Series A stage companies, all the way up to the likes of BitGo, Adecco, Microsoft, SEMrush, Coke, hit growth records by handling their end-to-end demand generation. If you're interested in working with a partner that handles your end-to-end demand generation and actually works on a performance basis, putting their skin in the game to help your company grow, get in touch. The domain name is Convert.ai, and the link to book is convert.ai/book. With that out of the way, let's move on to the show.
One thing we try to do is stand out from the ordinary webinars that people in our world see that tend to be pretty technical. So we try to make them pop a little bit. For example, the first webinar I did for the Association of Legal Administrators earlier this year, I called it Save the Firm. Redesign your compensation in one hour to keep your firm together. And so something a little bit provocative. And we did an exercise where it's like, okay, here's what's happening. So-and-so's leaving the firm. You've got to go figure out what they need and, keep everybody together. Try to make it into a story. That's really helpful. We've done them on the financial report card, which I know is something you want to talk about, where you try to do something that just captures people's imagination a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, a bunch of bullets on different strategies or whatever.
Love it. So that's your killer lead magnet that does resonate with your audience is some sort of financial law firm report card.
Yeah, and it's so funny, you never know what's going to work. And I did a LinkedIn post one day because I'd been just thinking about how can you convey the idea of law firm financial success to people in a way that they will understand it right away. So I said, well, let's try a report card. And so it just said, plug in the numbers for your firm on your capacity, utilization, realization, collection, overhead. And I'll tell you how you rate as in terms of all of those compared to the best in class law firms. And suddenly dozens, hundreds of people were asking for that. And, so we just sent them a spreadsheet that had that built in. It was kind of a clever spreadsheet. I have to give myself some credit for that. But
That's a good one.
still, it was something tangible, something pretty easy to understand, something that they could do actively. And that just really connected in a way that a whole bunch of other things didn't, frankly, because you have to try 10 things, maybe 100 things before you get one that really pops like that. And that's just the way it works as far as I can tell. There's no formula for success for the most part. Things you think are going to really take off don't at all. And then something like that was kind of a flyer turns out to be the big winner. Who knew?
Right. It's an experiment lab in the truest sense. It's
No
you try
kidding.
things and when they work, they feel like miracles. You can't really attribute why, but you have to rinse and repeat what does work when you land on a
Mm-hmm.
winning test, winning variation of something. In this case, the law firm report card. Do you bake this into your webinars at the very end and into your outbound emails too as the offer, your foot in the door?
We always offer the report card in everything we do now. And frankly, in almost every webinar, I walk through the report card criteria at the beginning of the webinar to say, even if we're talking about HR issues. I'll say, I want everybody to have a common understanding of what the measurements are for law firm success. And so we're kind of trying to create a language that everybody can understand and use to get better as a law firm, because that's one of the problems is you don't have that otherwise.
I like that you gamify it too, and you tell these law firms how they stack up against the best law firms so that they see side by side how they perform on the most important metrics. We know your thoughts on paid digital. I think there is another channel that we haven't talked about yet, which is community building. Maybe you can
Mm.
expand a little bit on what you've done so far in that respect.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, it's an experiment at this point. We've just started a community within the last month or two, and we've gotten pretty good response so far. I'd say we're at a plateau now where we've got a little bit of work to do, but it's been fabulous because it's a place we can drop all our content, and so if you see one webinar, you can go and see all the other webinars. So that's really attractive for people. What is hard is engagement and getting people to actually talk to each other. We're still figuring that part out. And so I guess I have to watch more of your podcast to see who's been really great at building communities, because we're just starting and learning.
To make a community people want to be part of, a lot of action has to take place there, a lot of back and forth. And just based on my interviews, and I've also experimented with myself, if you can drive people to community, you can DM them once they join, and then on a one-to-one basis in a new channel that isn't email or texts. Gary, we've covered most everything. Let's just do a very quick rapid fire round. I'll ask just a handful of
Okay.
questions. And with this, it's, first thought, best thought. I will just run through my little list here. So between
Sure.
calls, emails, or any other acquisition channel, what's your favorite avenue to pick up new business?
Webinars.
Your favorite resource or book or community that you've personally used to build your company?
I'm really high on 10x is greater than 2x right now. It's a very provocative concept.
Dan Sullivan, my boy.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's worth a reread. If you could tell your past self, Gary, one thing when you were first starting out, what would that one thing be?
This is going to be really hard, but if you're totally determined, you can make it happen.
Favorite way to unwind in general from the day-to-day founder grind, the hustle and bustle that we do?
Pet the kitties.
Love that. What's one question that you default to when you find yourself stuck or you're trying to unlock new strategies or work through a problem? Do you default to a question or some sort of idea that helps you think differently or develop new strategies to solve a problem?
That's a great question. One thing we have been thinking about a lot lately is Simple Marketing for Smart People. I don't know if you know that book.
Hmm?
But it's does your customer need to believe in order to buy your product? We found that very thought provoking and has really helped us because our whole strategy is content. So now, how do you create that content that's going to create that belief structure that you need for people to buy? Been super helpful.
Some amazing stuff here. Gary, I'm so thankful for your time. We will have to get you back and talk about community building a few months out. For the time being, where can people find out more about you or connect with you?
LinkedIn's a great place. You can find me there. I live there.
Yes, yes. Gary Allen at LeanLaw, linkedin.com/in/Gary G. Allen, everyone. So go ahead and connect with him. And Gary, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast.
Chris, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.